Harris is inspiring and very capable. The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation.
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid. What would people
Yes.
to reduce red meat specifically?
Yes.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
So for people out there who like their insurance, well, they don't get to keep it?
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
We did it, Joe.
That's the Dave McCormick commercial that's currently running, and it has garnered attention nationally because it exposes Kamala Harris for the fool that she is. But it exposes Bob Casey for the follower that he is. And Dave McCormick is with us. Dave, welcome back to the Bob Cordaro Show. How are you?
How are you, Bob? Thanks for running that commercial.
It's great stuff. It has taken the country by storm. It's genius. It exposes Bob Casey in a way that he needs to be exposed because he's got this regular guy image when he's a left-wing lunatic, and that's what he's become.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, my team did a great job on that. It's got like 3 million downloads. It really has gone viral. And the best thing about this is it's obvious. This is not politics. This is the following. Biden and Harris's agenda has failed for most Pennsylvanians. Harris is far more liberal than Joe Biden, the most liberal nominee in the history of the country. Those positions you just heard about, the ban on fracking, the government intervention in red meat consumption, the decriminalization of these people coming across the border, those are her positions. And Bob Casey is the weakest senator in the Senate. He votes 98% of the time with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And when she adopts this left-wing agenda as the president, if she were to win, Bob Casey's going to be with her every step of the way.
Yes.
And the thing I love about that commercial, it's just her own words. This is not me talking. This is Bob Casey talking and Kamala Harris talking, and Pennsylvanians get to decide whether that's what they want. My guess is they say no to that on November 5th.
And they've got to be exposed to it. And they're getting it more and more because there's a new Emerson poll out. And it shows, once again to me, critically, after over 30 years in statewide office, Bob Casey can't crack 50% in the polls. And it's 48-44. It's 8% undecided. It's not only within the margin of error, it's winnable within that poll.
No doubt about it. And what's happened is Bob Casey's dumped like $12 or $13 million of negative ads. I'm sure. I want to give you a hint, Bob. And when you're watching TV these days, the ads that say I'm the greatest guy in the world, those are my ads. The ads that say I'm a devil with horns coming out of my head, those are Casey. And he's spending like a wild man. And the Democrats, the unions around the country are getting behind him because they see he's on a path to losing. And Pennsylvania is going to finally have a senator that's going to be able to fight for them and make a big difference and get the border secure and inflation turned around and law and order in our cities and open up our energy sector. And so this is a clear choice between the status quo or worse under Casey Harris, because she's going to go even further left than Joe Biden, or sensible, pragmatic leadership that's going to fix these problems. And I'm telling you, I'm excited about it. You and I have been talking about this for more than a year. I'm excited. I can feel it on the ground. I can feel the energy, and I think people want leadership, and I'm excited about the opportunity to give it to the people of Pennsylvania.
Well, I believe there's going to be a brief honeymoon for Democrats with all the silliness surrounding Kamala Harris's ascension and all the lies about Joe Biden being booted. But I think that the proof will be in the pudding in a very short period of time, who she is, the shallowness that she displays, and the same thing for Bob Casey. You're already demonstrating it, and they've thrown everything but the book at you in terms of negative ads.
Everything but the kitchen sink. But, it's so funny. I was on an airplane yesterday in Pittsburgh Airport, and the flight attendant came up to me, and she said, I've been watching. She says, I see all these negative ads, and she says, I know that they're worried. And that's why they're coming after you so hard. And that's true. And I think people are starting to know who I am and what I have to offer. And the thing you just said, I want to point to, Bob Casey and Kamala Harris, but Bob Casey has been lying to the people of Pennsylvania for a long time. There is nobody in the Senate that's closer to Joe Biden than Bob Casey. How many times have we seen them campaigning together in Pennsylvania? Are you telling me that he didn't know that Joe Biden was failing and that he wasn't cognitively up to the job? And he stood by him every step of the way.
Yep.
And you know what that is? That's weakness. That's not courage. Listen, sometimes it's hard. You got to stand up and say, listen, Joe, you've been a friend for 30 years, 40 years, but you're just not up to it. That's what courage would look like. That's what strength would look like. Instead, Bob Casey is weak every step of the way. He never pops his head out of the hole. I told you, my mom's from Punxsutawney. I call him Punxsutawney Bob. He's once every 6 years you see him. And I think his time's up. I really believe that, and I'm excited to create a clear choice for the people of Pennsylvania on leadership versus status quo and weakness.
Senator Snickers his time has come, and frankly, the reason it's come is because people have not seen a leader like Dave McCormick versus a follower like Bob Casey, and the juxtaposition demonstrates what we need, which is Dave McCormick.
Yeah, and listen, this is a tough time. If you think in our lifetimes, we're about the same age, Bob. If you think in our lifetimes, when has the country seemed so fragile? When, I wrote about this. I might have sent it to you. I was at Butler with the president, and when he was shot, and I wrote a thing after. He was right in front of me. I was almost on the stage with him, and the article was an inch away from catastrophe.
Yeah.
And what I meant by that is we were an inch away from losing the president, but we're an inch away as a country of slipping over the cliff here and getting to a point where we can't recognize the country we have. And that's what this election's about. And when the bullets are flying, when times are tough, when you're in crisis, you can't have people that hunker down. Bob Casey hunkers down. He doesn't stick his head up until it's clear which way the wind's blowing. You need people that get out in front and lead and solve problems. And I've told you this. I'm a good Republican, Bob. I'm a conservative. But more than that, I'm a leader. And I'm going to represent all people of Pennsylvania, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. I just want to go fix things. And Bob Casey's not a fixer. He's a follower.
Well, he's going to fix the packaging, he says.
That's right.
I mean, Senator
right.
Snickers, he's stepping right up to the plate, and he's going to get me a bigger Snickers.
Yeah. No, that's something
from
else,
the inflation
too.
he caused.
That's something else. And, of course, you know this, but the snack industry is one of the biggest employers here in Pennsylvania, and went through some tough times during COVID. And so because of the out-of-control spending policies of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Bob Casey, we've got record-high inflation. Prices are up 20%. Wages haven't kept up. And because they know they're vulnerable on this, 60% of Pennsylvanians are living paycheck to paycheck. They know they're vulnerable. They make something up, which is, let's accuse the businesses, these small businesses, large businesses, of greed, because we have caused a record 40-year high in inflation, and it's disgraceful, and it's lying. And I think that's the other thing that's happening. I think Pennsylvanians recognize that when it comes to Joe Biden's health, Bob Casey's lying. When it comes to what he's saying about Dave McCormick, Bob Casey's lying. When it comes to what he's saying about inflation, Bob Casey's lying. You can't trust him. He hasn't done anything. And he's a follower, not a leader, and we need a leader.
Well, someone else that recognized that you're a leader and that has looked at the entire spectrum of issues is the State Fraternal Order of Police and the State Troopers Association. They've endorsed you.
Man, I was so proud to get that endorsement. That was 40,000, a little bit more than 40,000 men and women in blue. And the interesting thing about that, in the past, they've endorsed Bob Casey. And the reason they endorsed me is because they know that they need somebody who's going to have their back. Bob Casey's been associated and taken an endorsement from this Indivisible Philadelphia group, which is a defund the police movement. He doesn't stand behind qualified immunity, which is a really important thing for our men and women in uniform. I mean, that's a freaking tough job, Bob. I mean, in Pittsburgh, where I live, in 2020, we had 1,000 cops on the Pittsburgh police force. We now have 650. My neighborhood has half the patrols it used to have. That is what's happening when you have this defund the police, don't respect the police, go after the men and women in blue. You heard it in that advertisement for Kamala Harris. It's crazy to think we need more investment in our police. Are you kidding me? Law and order is the foundation for society, for families, for businesses. And look what's happening in the Northeast. Look at what's happening in Scranton. These are issues that Bob Casey has been weak every step of the way. And to make matters worse, he stood behind this crazy prosecutor in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, who won't prosecute violent crime and won't prosecute if you steal something. You got to steal $1,000 to even get prosecuted. That's what happens when you got weak leadership. And so anyway, I went on a rant there, but I am so honored to have their support. I told them, gave a big talk at their conference. I said, listen, I'm wearing the uniform. I know how important it is to have public leaders to have your back. Now, I wore a different uniform, but it's the same sentiment. We need to stand behind them, man. They're doing a great job for us. We're lucky to have them.
Dave McCormick, what's on your agenda as we head into this weekend? Where will you be campaigning?
I'm going to be all over the place. I'm going to be in Erie. I'm going to be in Southeast. I'm going to be in Chester County. I'm going to be going up to Knoebels. Knoebels. I went there as a kid. I'm going to spend some time there. A good
That's your hometown park.
That's my hometown park. Yeah. A good friend of mine is throwing a 60th birthday party for his wife on Saturday night. So it's going to be a great chance. I'm going to go to my family farm. So I'm going to be in our part of the state this weekend. Great.
Well, Dave McCormick, as you know, you're welcome on any time. Just pick up the phone, and we are rooting for you. We're praying for you on the campaign trail. You were within feet of those bullets, and I bet you never expected to hear that sound again.
Not yet. I didn't. And I'm such a tragedy that we lost.
And I want to ask a quick question, at least one more question. Yeah. You're a combat veteran. You heard bullets whizzing by you. Was that your immediate reaction to what was going on?
It really was. I was with our common friend Dan Muser. He was standing next to me. It was out of context because it was 15,000 people, so positive, so energetic. But I knew pretty quickly it was bullets, and it was hard to tell whether it was one shooter or two shooters. But it was a tragic day. Corey Compertor, a real hero, lost his life. We were so lucky to have the president survive, and I think it's just a good reminder. It's all very fragile, and we got to get the right people in place to get our country in the right direction. Just for your listeners, I'm at DaveMcCormickPA.com, and man, we're now in the final sprint. So any support your listeners can offer, and just following my campaign, I'm very grateful. Grateful for you, Bob.
Somebody text in, McCormick is more in touch with Scranton than Casey, and to that I say amen. Dave McCormick, our next United States Senator. Stay safe, stay strong on the campaign trail. Look forward to talking to you again.
You got it. Thanks. Talk to you soon.